This is CRM Audio, the Dynamics 365 podcast with Business Solutions MVPs Joel Lindstrom and Sean the CRM Hobbit Tabor. This episode is sponsored by the Dynamics 365 User Group. The User Group for Dynamics 365 and CRM community is powered by users, for users, and specializes in the delivery of member-driven education, networking, and events to help you maximize your current Microsoft Dynamics investment. We thank CRMUG for sponsoring this episode of CRM Audio, the Dynamics 365 podcast. Mr. Hobbit, welcome to MVP Summit 2018.
Yes, it's nice to be back after they took the couple-year break, right?
Live from Bellevue, Washington.
Indeed, indeed. The scene of many of my steps. My feet hurt.
And I understand that there's already MVPs that Joey's getting drunk.
As always, and like clockwork. Yes.
Summit hasn't even really started yet.
Nope.
But people start early.
Exactly. We haven't even started to talk about feedback that could cause people to drink, and they've already started.
So what were some of the festivities in Seattle you took advantage of?
Well, top of the list. Came in a little early. Went to Funko headquarters. Got to see.
What is Funko?
Funko, purveyor of fine pop culture paraphernalia, including what I collect, pop vinyl figurines. So.
And how many pop vinyl figurines do you have, Sean?
I have 414.
Exactly 414.
Yes, I know that because I looked it up.
How many did you have before you came to Seattle?
Well, in my bag over on the couch there's about 6. So yeah, no, it was cool. I went to Everett, Washington. Got to see Funko. Went to Pike's Place, or I don't even know if I'm saying that right, but the market.
Yeah. Went
there. Got to see fish being flung. Went to the original Starbucks, and let me tell you, the coffee's exactly the same. It's just in a smaller location, but I got a mug. So right. Yeah, saw the sights. It was fun.
Well, I took advantage of some of the pre-summit sessions they had.
Mm-hmm.
These are not NDA, so I can talk about them, but had Scott Hanselman given us some tips on how to keep your social profiles, how to clean them up and make them effective, and he had some really good tips. He suggested using the same picture, same URL, and everything for all your social networks.
And I do that out of laziness, so that works out well.
Yeah, so you're ahead of the game.
I am ahead of the game by pure attrition.
Oh, and this was kind of funny. We did kind of a roundtable discussion with some of the MVPs that were around, and I had to leave a little bit early.
Mm-hmm.
And so I got up and tried to silently make myself my way out of the room, and I opened what I thought was the back door and walked straight into the closet. And then I had to come out and say, oh, excuse me, I thought that was the door.
Outstanding.
So it's my plan to be smooth turned into...
No, it's not so much.
Idiot walking into the closet.
Better you than me, my friend.
Okay, so let's see. We can't really talk about what's going to be revealed here because we don't know it, and we would lose our MVPs if we did. But, I was kind of think, if I wasn't here... how much would I really want to hear about all the stuff that's going on here?
Well, you know what it is. I think what we should talk about, what we should explain is why we're here.
Right.
Why is it?
Why are we here, Sean?
Why do they bring us here? So theoretically, this is only my second summit, so I'm still a little bit less jaded than most. The concept is for those who are MVPs, they bring us here to not only talk about what their future plans are and what they're going to try to do within the different product stacks, but also to gain our feedback on what has worked, what hasn't worked, and there is I think there's a genuine desire to understand our feedback, where we tend to fall sometimes is into a more of a gripe session than feedback,
right?
And that sometimes happens with with software investments. I mean, you can't fix everything. There's a finite budget. There's finite resources. So it's interesting to see it will be interesting to see, I should say, where we're going to be, because the last time we were here, it was before 9.0. It was before a lot of the things that happened in, what was it? The 8.2. We wasn't even 8.2 yet.
Right.
So it'll be interesting to see where they're going, and what feedback they look for from us.
Yeah, so what I would say is, if you are listening to this podcast and you say, you know what, I really wish I could do this too. I wish I could go to Redmond and take advantage of that. I've mentored multiple people on how to become MVPs, and it's not a secret. Mm-hmm. It's basically consistent contribution to the Dynamics community. Correct. And by that, I don't mean writing a blog post twice a year, because if your blog post is 4 years ago and says I'm really getting back into blogging now, you're not doing enough for that. But if you take things and just start where you are with CRMUG, go to your chapter, speak at it, write some blog posts, answer some forum questions, just get involved. I tell people, don't make MVP your goal. Make increasing your contribution to the community a regular part of your community, like regular part of your week. Like every week, I'm going to do this. I'm going to take 15 minutes twice a week or something. I'm going to write a blog post. Mm-hmm. And Scott had a great point. Scott Hansel, in his session, he talked about don't waste keystrokes. He's actually got this website where you put in the speed you type and how old you are, and it will estimate how many keystrokes you have left. So he said, in your life, and you don't want to waste your keystrokes. So when somebody asks you a question and it's a general question about how CRM works, instead of just writing them an email, write a blog post about it and then send them a link to the blog to your blog post.
Right.
And that's why we do podcasts. That's why we do all this other stuff. It's not just to keep our MVP and be able to come to these great conferences, but it's also just because we love the technology, and we love to help shape the conversation. That's what I like. I like to feel like, hey, it doesn't always get to be what I want it to be, but I can at least give my opinion and help shape the conversation in some way.
And it is all about your passion. So if you have passion for the product, if you have passion for a certain subset of the functionality, if you have a passion for a certain method in which to provide to the community, for example, with this podcast, I love doing this podcast. This is something that really helped me become an MVP, because I'm not the biggest fan of blogging. Other methods just didn't click for me, and you got to find your sweet spot.
Yeah, so back in 2015, Sean and I were talking and said, hey, let's do a podcast. So this should have been called the Let's Make Sean an MVP podcast.
Yes, it should have. And well done, it did.
So talking about sometimes we can get a little discouraged thinking we give Microsoft our feedback and they don't listen to it, or they do their own thing. We have, I think, a really recent example of where that's not the case, and that's the recent announcement of the API limits. Mm-hmm. What were the API limit announcement?
I believe it wasn't it 60,000 transactions per 5 minutes per user?
Yeah, so basically it equals something like 200 per second or something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
And so the announcement is that they're putting these limits in place, and there was a big outcry from ISVs and other people like that who said, you've given us a month notice, and so there was a big outcry. Then people did the math, and Daniel Kai had probably the best blog about it on the Kingswaysoft blog, kingswaysoft.com, where he explained that it's per account, and it is, so you're very unlikely to hit it, and execute multiple requests only count as one call. So the net result is this was kind of a tempest in a teapot. But Microsoft did listen, and they put out clarification about it, and definitely listened to the feedback, and it makes sense. And somebody was complaining about it, and they said this is like 200 times what Salesforce gives you.
Right. Right. And yeah, each user, it says on, if you go to docs.microsoft.com and search for API limits, you'll find it says each user will be allowed up to 60,000 API requests within 5 minutes. And when an limit is exceeded, any requests will return error responses. So if you have concerns about reaching that threshold, make sure you have your response logging, adequate, so that you know when that's happening.
And Kingswaysoft is coming out with an update to help you deal with this, but it's something that you should definitely call your ISVs if you use other integration tools or third-party ISVs to see, number one, are they thinking about this? Mm-hmm. Because I could see potentially if somebody used the same account for everything, like had all their integrations running as the same account and multiple other things running, you could theoretically hit it, but as Daniel says in his blog post, it's going to take a lot of creativity to hit that limit for most people.
Absolutely.
So, have you had any conversation with any customers who are concerned about that?
No, not so much customers. But to your point, I know we recently talked to another partner that had an add-on, and that is now part of the questions that I ask potential add-ons that I would use just to make sure that they're accounting for that. And so far, so good.
Right. Okay. So again, it's something to be aware of, nothing to be too concerned about it. So did I see you had your first SIG meeting for your field service SIG?
I did. For the field service PSA SIG meeting over at CRM UG, we had our kickoff meeting. It was pretty well attended from what I understand from a SIG perspective. We had a lot of really good feedback, and it looks like our plans for the SIG for 2018 are well in line with what our chapter members had hoped for. So I think we have another SIG meeting in another couple months, and we should have a webinar sometime next month on PSA.
Cool. Yeah. So can they hear a recording of that meeting? Where do they hear that? If
you're a CRMUG member, and I encourage everyone on this listening audience to do so, you could join the join the field service /PSA SIG, and you'll see in our member webinar recordings, you'll see the kickoff meeting there. So you should be able to listen to that there.
That's good. So do you have to join the SIG to see the recording, or can you just...
Ideally you would join the SIG.
Yeah.
But that is the best.
Maybe you just want to lurk.
Way. Well, but you can lurk just by us knowing who you are. So joining the SIG allows you when you join the SIG, it's no additional overhead to you as a member, really. It just allows you to get to the content, get to the communities, and if you find that it's not for you, you can unfollow or unjoin. But I think we're going to have a lot of good content this year. We have some really exciting stuff we're actually working on here at the summit with some other MVPs, and hopefully we'll have some announcements in the coming weeks.
Right. So the other piece of news is 9.01 for Microsoft Dynamics 365 was released. Mm-hmm. And, some people say don't implement until the first service pack. Well, that's here now, so you can go with V9 now.
Right.
And they're actually, the upgrades started too. So I know at least one or two companies that already updated at least their sandbox environments to V9 and are testing them. And there's... I'll post a link in the blog post, but there's quite a long list of things that were fixed, such as errors, publishing solutions, the missing X button to clear the search in the app for Outlook, appointment forms not opening in certain situations. There were some rough edges with V9 when it was released, but I think the 9.01 has fixed that. The Outlook app, as far as I understand it, is still considered in preview, but they removed the preview watermark from it. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of out, kind of?
Kind of, sort of, kind of?
Yeah.
But is it still under the preview, under the list of applications under the preview? I think
you still have to turn preview on, but it's very close to getting out there. At least it doesn't say preview anymore.
Cool.
And... but I know that from dealing with some support tickets for clients that are going live in the next week or two, Microsoft is pushing out, I think, weekly builds for V9. Because we had some that were still issues, but they said it's going to be fixed in the next build. Like there was one where people did quick campaigns to create create phone call records. The quick campaign activity create would fail when they didn't have a business phone on the contact or something. So
interesting. Yeah, right now, if as of 3 days ago, we were on build 9.0.1.050, which is service update 3.
Right, and these updates are coming out faster than the knowledge base articles that say what's fixed in them.
Right.
So anyway, I'll post the one for the 9.0, and keep in mind there's probably been some additional fixes out since then.
Yep. They're moving it, and hopefully tomorrow we'll get some more information on how often they think they're going to be pushing updates out. We could share that with you.
Right. So my plan for this year at Summit is we may have a recap after Summit, but this week Ulrich has a really great guest who has a add-on for Power BI that basically makes it easy for you to display Power BI dashboards and reports inside of Dynamics and solves the issue of not being able to put them on system dashboards.
Excellent.
So that's cool.
Excellent.
And then we'll have our next Neil Benson Scrum Dynamics episode on Thursday.
You know, I really enjoyed that episode, his first episode. It was only 12 minutes, but there was so much information in there.
You know what I think that sounds like? That's probably what it sounds like when there's a business meeting at the Lucky Charms factory.
I didn't say that, Neil. I didn't say it. But it was a really good podcast, so I'm looking forward to the next episode. And our next episode for At Your Service, let's see. I've been trying to be proactive, and I recorded ahead of schedule.
You interviewed somebody, right?
So the next episode is Cafe X.
Okay.
We talk about omni-channel communication. So it's not let's talk all about Cafe X. We brought in the omni-channel communication gurus essentially to talk about that very topic, and we go into discussions about how millennials interact with your products and services, what it means to have what omni-channel communication and customer service really means. So it's a really great discussion, and I hope you guys enjoy it. But yeah, we have some good stuff, and this week I'm going to be recording some audio for a future episode on GDPR.
Okay. Well, if you listen to that, we can't store the names of who listens to it because we violate GDPR.
Does that mean we have to obfuscate the episode name?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Sean, good to catch up with you. Look forward to seeing these sessions over the next couple of days. And
absolutely.
Seeing the future.
You betcha. Take care, everybody.